Welcome back, Raw Thoughts listeners, to another episode with me, MaKenzie Tiggs. Today, I have Monty with The Wealthy Servant on the podcast. We're going to be talking about finances as first responders, becoming entrepreneurs, and where that road has led for him. So, Monty, I'm so excited for you to be on the podcast and have your knowledge of, over 30 years as a first responder and now an entrepreneur, and really being able to push, who you are as a human being. So, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel blessed. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I want to kind of dive in a little bit, one, about your background of being a cop and where that has led to now being an entrepreneur. That's kind of a
Yeah,
big jump after retirement and what that's looked like.
sure. Yeah. So, growing up, I told my mom I wanted to do two things. I wanted to be a cop and I wanted to be wealthy. My mother, my father, and my stepfather were all teachers. And to my mom's credit, she said, yeah, that's totally possible. Just got to find out who's done that. And that always was a seed in my head. Okay, great. It's possible. And then as a baby cop, growing up in Delaware, my first cop job, my FTO kind of turned to me and said, hey, look, you got to have a backup of everything that's critical. We have backup weapons, we have backup knives, flashlights, all the gear that's essential. You better start thinking about having a backup to your income. And that just really, really resonated with me. It stuck to me. And someone I highly respected, I'm like, okay, this guy is making it a point, then I better start doing it. So ever since I was a young cop, I always, tried to develop income streams. And, even throughout I was a cop first, then eventually finished my degree, and decided I wanted to join the Marine Corps. I got commissioned and went in as an officer, did that for a few years, and then came back out, and eventually went back into law enforcement. Eventually found my way, ultimately to the Georgia Bear investigation, where I ended my career. The whole time, though, I was having additional income streams. I was acquiring additional income streams, whether it was businesses or real estate, things of that nature. I just, in the beginning, didn't know what I didn't know. So I was just kind of, I was creating jobs for myself until I realized, hey, I need to find somebody that knows how to really take this, turn it from another job, because I already got one of those, into a business. And, from there, once I learned that, then it was just a matter of stacking the opportunities and, being able to live a lifestyle, because I loved serving. I just hated the pay. So rather than complain about it, I figured there was a way. Somebody had a solution, and I did. So that's what I did.
Yeah. I love that you say that about not complaining about it, because I can find so many individuals that, as first responders, the pay is low. As a paramedic, $19,
Yeah.
that's insane to me, to go into strangers' homes, go into people's, car accidents or wrecks and watch them die and get paid for
Yeah.
$19, And so I think it's so, critical of what you are, talking about, of having that backup plan. And you
Yeah.
were privileged to be shown that in such a young age. And I think that's something that doesn't even get talked about as first responders, is like, what's your
Yeah.
financial plan?
Right. Well, not only that, like, so it's, and I I come from a contrarian way of thinking, because I'm just looking at my world when I grew up with y'all, with paramedics, firefighters, police officers, super talented, but often not valued correctly. I mean, who learns how to do all this, to be able to save a life and treat a patient like that? $19. Clearly, we didn't do it for the money, but we have the passion and we have the intellect to do that. To fight a fire, to do these things. It's amazing. So, yeah, I've always been. I just never understood why that wasn't something that we, put in front of our folks so that we could retain them. I think leadership was always been afraid that they would just leave. But what I have learned in my experiences, most leadership doesn't understand that this is a job. That's how they treat it. They treat it as a job, and this is mostly a calling for these type of people. And so they choose, even though it is a this whole field highly valued profession, despite the fact that we are not compensated that way. They don't understand that this isn't a job. This is a calling for people that um, you just couldn't swap out an individual. So if we can treat them well, it took them a long time to recruit and get this talent. If we can keep them in because we can pay them more or give them incentives by, hey, look, I know you're going to do a side job. How about if we helped you do that better? How about if we, and you were able to generate a very nice income in addition to what you're currently doing? Would you stay? Some of us would. I did. I stayed for like 5 years after I was financially free. So,
Wow.
um,
Mindbase is the official sponsor of Raw Thoughts podcast. Mindbase is the only mental health and wellness technology platform that goes far beyond their traditional wellness app for first responders specifically. It uses data to optimize a proactive and people-driven approach to first responders' wellness. Please reach out today to see about getting Mindbase into your agency to help our first responders.
How did you, I mean, because I know that you have, you've got a good real estate profile. You've got all of these additional, streams. What is something that you would tell those younger individuals that don't get to hear that, but maybe are hearing it from this podcast today? Like, what would you tell them to how to get started in that? Because we know that they're not getting paid well. So how do we put that in front of them?
yeah, that's a great question. How do you get started? And how we get started is develop our financial wisdom. So oftentimes what happens, it intimidates us. A new subject intimidates us, and then we end up deferring. When it comes to money, that we do that all the time. And so, think about our pensions, our quote unquote a retirement 401k, which I hate. I can go into a whole spiel about that. But we kind of defer that instead of really learning and taking the power in our hands. We're over here doing complex things, everything from, how the medications, interact with each other and how to, fight a fire, how to deal with a search warrant, all these complex things. But we don't master money, and we let it intimidate, us because it's just a lack of knowledge. If we start to build a foundation there and we can have conversations and we can ask questions, then it becomes of what do we really want? What's our vision? I want to still be a cop, but I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I want to have, real estate where I'm making an extra $2,000 or $3,000. Okay, great question. Great statement. The next question is, well, who knows how to do that? And so we go and find that now. We go find that person that can help us. But the first thing is to build our financial wisdom, just like we would when we're in academy.
Yeah.
It'd be, that's how I try to get those guys to change their mind. Just because I gave you a badge and a gun and say, go to it, you wouldn't be able to do it because I gave you a medical bag and a turnout kit, you wouldn't be able to treat anybody. We got to go back. We got to go back to school, and it doesn't intimidate us. It's power.
Yeah. I think, I want to touch on this too, because money is something that even when you're not a first responder, nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those hidden secrets. I don't feel like I really got
Why do you think
established
that is?
well.
I'm sorry, MaKenzie. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a lack of knowledge. I
Okay.
think there is such it almost needs to be a secret, or
Yeah.
people want it to be a secret because they don't want to maybe showcase like what their like what their deficits are, basically.
Ooh,
Like,
good. That's a good pickup. Yeah. Because the Wesley
where
don't do it that way. They do it the opposite way. They're constantly training their kids how to really manage money and magnify money and grow money. We are on the other side. Good point. Yeah. Yep. It's a good
and I
pickup.
think too, it's one of those that I don't think, a lot of people got taught. And so they're just kind of scrounging. They're trying to figure, I mean, I'm in that situation where it's like, I didn't really, you know, I didn't really get taught business. I didn't really get taught entrepreneurship. I didn't really get taught about money, but it's those innate feelings or those sparks inside me that is like, I want to still do this. And I
Yeah.
think that is where some people are like the complete opposite, where they want this perfect plan. They want,
Yeah.
to know how everything works
Right.
before they get into it. And I am the exact opposite. And I
I
don't know if
love
that
that.
comes
I love
from,
that. I love that. Yeah. What
like,
if
I
I
don't know if
told
that
you
comes.
that it wasn't necessary? And that's, what if I told you that it wasn't necessary to have, it was necessary to ask better questions, not the how, but the who?
Mhm.
Would that take pressure off of us? And as a military officer, in my time in the Marine Corps, I realized my job wasn't to know how, it was really the who. I had a mission that overall that I had to complete. I had to pick and select the people that were best suited for that and give them the resources. Same thing here in business. I have a mission to make money and provide a great service and or product to my customers. Well, who knows how to help me build this? Because I can tell you right now, MaKenzie, there's only a few talents that I have, and it's not like a lot of you guys that can like save a life and jump down like scale buildings and do all this crazy stuff. I can usually maybe shoot things and blow things up. I don't know, that doesn't translate in too many things, but you know, we have to ask better questions, and really we have to focus on our vision. And people are like, well, I just want to make more money. Well, we will never get anywhere because everything will come into your life and it'll seem like an option. But if you say, MaKenzie, I want to have the number one podcast in America that deals with, I don't know, you know,
Mental health.
mental health, motivation, thriving, whatever, then we start to have, a goal. I want to have this that it changes, so many lives, hundreds of, first responders' lives. And I have a coaching, organization that's under it, that I am international. I speak, you know, also in occasions I actually coach. I do TED Talks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now we start to have a frame and things that we can actually say no and yes. We don't worry about the money because you know what? When we have a business, the money is actually very easy to find.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody is like me in this, where, a statement that I've always said is that when you lead with your heart, money will follow. And I think that can only happen to a certain extent, though,
Hmm.
because what I have found is like, it's almost like my standards are too low because I'm
One,
okay with I'm
mhm.
okay with like, I'm like, oh, but I feel good. And I'm like, oh, MaKenzie, like you should have made that, a business deal or getting money from that or, some kind of aspect to that. And I think, we do have some pretty low standards of,
Mm. That's a money mindset thing. So here's what I say, and I had the same thing, early on, and it's a little bit of us being intimidated and not knowing our real value. And that's just what I would say to you. Now that we've coached hundreds, actually thousands of first responders, I was in the same boat. I just want to help. I just want to help. And I used that as a crutch and hid behind it. But here's the fact that you probably know. We can't help everybody because a lot of them aren't ready to be helped. If you and I went into a room of 100 people and we asked who wants to make, more money, all the hands would go up. But then there'd be one guy that didn't even understand the question, just raised his hand because everybody else did. There'd be another guy that was just looking for a quick buck, a lottery win. Be another one that was, still trying to, figure out what he wants to do. And then there'd be this last one that really was ready and waiting and willing to invest his time and resources. That's the person that we want to spend our time, our energy into. And that is what the money is all about. It's a filter because here's what happens. If you were going to help somebody and they just say, yeah, MaKenzie, I'll definitely work for you, work with you for $500. Well, there's a guy behind you, behind that guy that really needs your help, that really wants to listen, that really appreciates the value. And it's like, I don't care what it costs. I know she's the solution.
Mhm.
That's how we make sure that you understand. If you really understand your value and you really know your gift to the world, then the right people, don't have a problem with that. When I early on coaching, tremendous investment. It just was. It was well into 5 figures. It was a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous investment. But I knew I didn't have it readily, but I knew that it was worthwhile.
Yeah. How do you, and I think this is maybe a mind shift within first responders, because we have been taught and we have also lived a lifestyle where whoever calls, you respond to, you help them. And
Hmm.
so now it's a huge shift to, we're not going to the problem. The problem's coming to us and we're the solution.
Hmm.
And I think even just in my own brain, that is hard to change that, because like you're used to just saving whoever or helping whoever you need, that you don't get a choice. You don't get a choice to decide, you know what, I'm actually not going to work with you today while you're having a heart attack. I'm
Mm,
actually not going to
right,
work with you today because you're having a stroke. Like, we don't get to have those, kind of decisions. Like, we
right,
have to. And so now it is a complete change in even just telling ourselves, like, hey, sit back, be patient, and know that, like you just said, that maybe the first person that comes to you isn't maybe the right one, even though it sounds really awesome, even though
mm,
it sounds really great. But
hmm,
being patient for that next one. How do we build our value in understanding this aspect? Because it is going against everything that we have ingrained in our
right,
brain.
right. It was a muscle that went the other way. We call it
Mhm.
muscle memory for a reason. So we have to go the other way, and we have to say, what do I really want to be? For me, I want to be the CEO. So every day I have to, the frame of what I believe is the optimal, CEO. I have to step in that every day, and exercise that. The CEO leads from the front. CEO, as I was trained as a true leader, is I eat last. My people eat first. I take care of the mission first. I take care of myself, last. If I take care of my people, the mission will be accomplished. We have to step into what we are getting ready to do. And that has to be a daily routine until it becomes just, that's the new pattern where we understand that's part of our value. Um, when you understand your real worth and your gift, you understand that, yes, you can help everybody. You could bring, but you can't help everybody. And part of, your filter is the money that you charge. It just, again, if we were sitting here and had if Tony Robbins was here, is there any question that he could probably pour in some value to us?
Yeah. Oh, for
There-
sure.
yeah. And so, but there's also a price tag. We understand that. Like, you and I would have no qualms about that. Like, wow, he's actually going to give us a discount. He's going to only charge us $50,000 for today and that's literally what the man makes. He makes $1 million a day for coaching somebody. We have to determine our value. I mean, again, that's been beat up in our head. You're super valued, but you're really not. So you're only worth $50,000. No, you're really valued, but you're really not. It's this back and forth. This, where cognitive dissonance, where we're going back and forth. Are we valuable? Or aren't we valuable? And in our own heads. Now we have to shift and decide. No, I'm the CEO of my life. This is how I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to step into. I get to determine. And but you have to set that up every day. It's actually a daily routine, and it's not easy. You're right, but that's also why we've created Wealthy Servant, is that you have these communities of like-minded individuals that are all going through the same struggles, these ups and downs, and you get to say, I'm not feeling 100% today, and it's nice to be able to have somebody that gets it.
Mhm.
the push and pull of, I have a servant heart, but I also I'm looking to grow my business and really grow something. But I also want to serve. I don't want to be greedy. And all these things that go through our heads. It's good to get into a community that serves you in that way. And that's exactly why, to fill in that gap, is to have a community that's just for us, that understands our challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is, really critical, especially with first responders, because they already feel so alone because of what they
Mm,
do, in their careers and in their jobs. And then now we're adding a whole nother layer. And, what I have found, especially with the podcast and, me being a real estate agent, is that you have to literally reconstruct those beliefs. And those beliefs are so ingrained in our brains that it's going to feel different. It's going to feel weird. That's really where you get that imposter syndrome.
yes.
But what's important is those groups, those communities are the people that are the like-minded, where they can be there to support you, but also have an outsider's view on your life and your world and be able to see those gaps way better than we can. Because
Yeah.
I'm a person where somebody could come up to me and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing that and I didn't even realize I've been doing it wrong. But thank you for coming up and telling me that.
That's amazing.
And, with that, I want to ask, like, what traits from being a police officer have been able to transition into being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a pretty emotional guy. And try to keep my emotions in check. So I'm like, everything's great, everything's wonderful. And what I've learned, you can't do that in an investigation. You got to go by the facts. And that helped me regulate and look at things critically.
Mm.
Later in my career, I worked and focused on money laundering. So just worrying about the numbers and looking at, the details of that really took some of that excitement and passion out that would maybe make us not think critically, but to being able to do that. Yeah.
Foundation Functional Medicine specializes in gut health, hormone balancing, weight loss, and autoimmunity. They also offer an array of medical aesthetics, quality medical grade skincare, and USB certified supplements. Foundation Functional Medicine's mission is to help you reestablish and rebuild your foundation, your building blocks to overall health, well-being, and longevity. Foundation Functional Medicine and Aesthetics is local to Boise, women-owned boutique medical practice offering both functional medicine and aesthetic services to the Treasure Valley and surrounding states. Please visit foundationfunctionalmedicine.com or follow on Instagram at Foundation Functional Med. Let them know that Raw Thoughts Podcast sent you their way.
Are you all my personal dreams?
Yeah. I think, one of the biggest things is making a decision. Is
Yes.
like what I find so many people, they want all of, if I make this decision, this is how it's going to play out. Or if I make this decision, this is how it's going to play out. And I think one of the best things, and actually it was my dad that taught me this, and he was a paramedic as well,
Mm.
is make a decision and stand by it.
Yeah.
And I remember, especially with being a paramedic, it was like your decision was not about you. It was about the patient and it was about everybody involved.
Yeah.
And I think, so many business folks forget about that and they
Yeah.
just see what it is for them. How
Yeah.
are they going to gain? How are they going to improve? And I think with making a decision, knowing that it's going to be a win-win situation for
Yes.
everybody,
Favorite
and
phrase.
everybody's going to, get some part of it.
Yeah.
And there also has to be compromise. There also has
Right.
to be,
Right.
maybe I'm not going to get as much on this decision, but maybe next one I'm going to. And
Yep.
and truly just standing in your decision and say, yeah, I did decide on that. And,
Right.
even if it's wrong, teach me why that wasn't the right decision, or teach me how I can make that, faster, more effective in doing that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's part of what makes, what's interesting is sometimes first responders just don't, well, I can't do business. And I'm like, you literally have all the skills that that you need more than you get just a little bit of information and oftentimes you have to think so quickly, make decisions so quickly. One of the things I hear from the private sector when I go around and I talk with them is they complain about how civilians can't make a decision. Well, that's not a problem for us, and oftentimes we don't have all the facts. We do the best we can. And as you know, MaKenzie, we usually are pretty up there. It's like 99% of the time we're doing the right thing. Most industries don't have that at all, that success rate, which it always baffled me. I guess first responders just don't get to see the other side, just how far superior they are. And if they only made a decision, what what do I really want to do besides this? I can do other things too. In addition, it's not, I like to think, well, why can't you have your cake and eat it too? So,
Yeah.
like to your point, make a decision, and now we create what we really want. I like to live in a place of abundance. I really do. I literally. And it doesn't mean that you're going to build a $10 million business, but could we start? Could we start buying some property? Could we start having a very successful podcast that eventually is maybe a coaching and real estate and this and that? Da, 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 da. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love you saying that because it's something you have to work on, just like you were talking about, having to work on being the CEO of a business and training your brain to do that. It is the same thing with, that abundance where when
Yes.
we are in a state of mind of scarcity where it's like,
Mm,
oh, we don't know where the money's coming. We don't know where, our next meal is coming from, or,
right.
we're living paycheck to paycheck. Like
Right.
that abundance is also like when you're in abundance, you can also be in gratitude and really being able to be thankful for what you do have and allow more things to come into your life. And
Mhm.
this is definitely something, people out there like that I'm working through is that abundance is like, I don't need to be scared of what my schedule is going to look like in 2 months, right? I just need to keep doing what I'm doing. And
Right.
the opportunities will come and the money will come. And but if you're in that scarcity mindset and you are then afraid, you then are in the worrying, and that is
Mhm.
all in those same state of minds. Like it's not a mindset, it's the state of mind that you're in, and you can't be in abundance and scarcity at the same time.
Exactly. Right. So, and oftentimes we have this push pull. One of them is going to win out. Growth, scarcity, depends. And one is going to, win out. So we do a hallway scenario, and people bring this to us all the time. I'm fearful of this problem I got to solve. Okay, what are we focused on? Here's the problem. Here's the solution. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of this. Okay, I get it. So what are we focused on? What should we be focused on? The solution. And oftentimes, what happens, to your point, scarcity leads to fear. Fear leads to narrowing of our focus. And we don't see the solutions that are literally around us. Again,
Yeah.
who solved this problem? How about that? What if we ask better questions? That's the great thing about being in these communities, these masterminds of, like-minded individuals. There's probably hasn't been a problem yet, whether it's come to not having enough funding, not having a sales process, not knowing who to hire, maybe getting sued, all these things. But now you're in a community where you can say that, hey, has anybody been sued for this kind of thing? Or has anybody, had this, I ordered stuff from China, it didn't come in, or anybody have, a bad contract with a broker, and, all these kind of things that you get to share.
What do you think the key to asking better questions is?
Ooh. You know, just again, I have always come from the standpoint that the solution is out there, and just knowing that again, when we start getting stuck, and if all that we're looking at is a problem, then we have just got to kind of take a breath and realize that's not it. That is not it. and then just to being open-minded. That's the key. Because if we're not open-minded and not focused on abundance, then again, we can be asking questions, but we won't see them. So the key would be, if you're in that panic state, which we've all been in, we've all been fearful, we've all been really afraid, and like, if I don't solve this, to your point, we'll never get around to a solution. We'll never get to be able to see anything clearly. But somehow being able to take a breath and stop and just say, okay, even change your state, get up, do something, run, that will actually chemically change the way your mind thinks. And for a split second, you'll be able to actually look at things differently. You're like, oh, whoa, I didn't even see that. But until we actually do that, we're going to stay in that. But if you could do that, if you can catch yourself saying, things that are in the opposite, and start to catch yourself, your mind's going to say, wait a minute, that's a no-fly zone. We don't do that. We don't think that way. I reject that.
Yeah.
I think this way. Well, this will never get fixed. It'll never get fixed. I reject that. How can I fix this? Who knows how to fix this? That abundance, it opens up, and I like start seeing things. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
My Uncle Terry knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot that I'm really going into depth of studying the nervous system and how this affects us.
Yes.
And especially trauma and, all of these things. And I love what you said about being able to ask that, who do I know that knows this? And then you just kind of explain this connector mode. It's like, this person knows this, and then this person knows this. And by the time of it, you're like, oh my gosh, I asked this one person, and it's like 12 steps down that we actually found the
We
solution.
love to help. Life is a team sport. We love to help. I know if I asked you a favor, I said, MaKenzie, I know you're in this, you're in the paramedic world, and I need to find this particular solution or this person. I know that you would be like, I'm pretty sure I can find out. You'd be going all around, and we love that. We just don't tap into it for ourselves, and we don't realize how to tap into that.
Yeah. And it's actually, that connector mode is actually the opposite of the, that's more in the parasympathetic nervous system than it is the sympathetic. So sympathetic being that fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And then we don't ever really hear the opposite. And the opposite is that parasympathetic, where it's the safe and sound, aspect. And that's where we find the connector mode. And that connector mode is, being able to ask those vulnerable questions and ask, and bring forward your vulnerabilities of your character deficits, where you're like, hey, I am struggling with X, Y, and Z. Somebody out there is going to be able to say, hey, I have been in your same situation, or I know somebody. And that is exactly what you're explaining too, where it's like, we want to help people. Like, it is human nature. I don't care your race. I don't care your gender. I don't care whatever title you have on yourself. Like, we are all humans. And that's at the core of it, of being servants, of being able to help each other, of being able to build each other up. And I think we've gotten so far off of that. And it's, you hear about it, about, collaboration over competition, but there's still people that are sitting that competition and still trying to tear other people down so that their building can be the tallest.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I mean, I really don't. And here's the thing. I don't think you'll meet a more competitive person, in the room. If that's your attitude, I'm directly competing against you. Because I believe in abundance. I believe in win-win. I believe in, I'll help you no matter what. I have clients that are often nervous. I want to do what you're doing, but I don't want to compete. I'm like, why not? You're going to make me better. Why not? What's wrong with you? You better make me. But what do you try to keep me weak? Let's go. Let's do this. We got a big mission. There's actually 2 million first responders, in North America. We got a big mission to do. We talk about wellness. I want thriving. I want you to have the funds to take care of your family. When you're off, you're off. When you need to go to chiropractor, when you need, psychological help, when you need, to go to yoga and really let loose, you got to start with a foundation where you don't ask, you're not borrowing, you're not feeling. Part of the stress is all this that we have financially. How do we build strength? Not like wellness. I don't want wellness anymore. I want thriving. I want strength. I want boatloads of cash, and that is relative to who, what I mean. But so that we really live a life of abundance and joy. Again, to your point, this is who we are. Whether we were actually a paramedic, you're still a servant leader. You're out here pouring into people with this podcast, leading people to be better. I mean, it has nothing to do with being a paramedic. It's the fact that you're a servant leader. So
Yeah. And there is, it's so funny because people will ask me like paramedic to realtor and podcaster, like nothing is like the same. And I'm like, oh, there is so much that is similar. Like it's who I am to my core of being that servant and being able to talk people off the ledge.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
who I am,
so good. Yeah,
and
it's so awesome.
it doesn't
You serve
matter, what
constantly, and that's the difference. That's what makes us, and that's what I keep telling these folks. That's what gives us the competitive edge. You don't understand. We're all about customer service. Yes, we can beat people up, but we don't do that. We got to negotiate. We got to help get oftentimes a win-win. I got to deliver bad news. Hey, I'm sorry, you got a warrant. I got to, we can do it the hard way or the easy way, and I'll give you respect. Or, hey, here's some bad news. Or, let me take care of you. I know you're hurting. I'm here with you. I'm gonna hold your hand. I know this is painful. Hang with me. I got you. You know, who does that?
Yeah.
Who lives that? On a daily basis. We do, and we have so much to give to other people. I just want people to push themselves to go for more. As far as if you, it's always interesting. I ask people, what is your ideal dream that you don't tell anybody else that you secretly, let's go for that. Let's go for that. And they'll say, well, I don't have the funding. And I didn't ask that. If I was a genie and Monty was your genie, what kind of life would you create? No friction, no restrictions. What would you create? Let's get there. What if we don't get there? What if we only get a third there? Okay, I'm cool with that. What if we get halfway there? And what if we get all the way there? What would life feel like? What would life be like? I work 4 days a week. Here right now, I have an amazing, team. I love my team. My mission is to help everybody, including them. I want them to be financially free. I want them to live it. They're helping me, spread this message. They're helping me. That's what I get to live authentically, who I am and what we're all about, because that's what I was for 32 years. That was in my core. I want everybody to be great.
Yeah. What do you have to say about, or maybe how did you implement the psychological part of the career for so long? Because statistically, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, they only last about 5 years after they retire because of the stress that they've endured for so long.
Yeah.
And what I love is that you've almost built this whole other life after retirement. You're living a whole different, perspective. Yes, you're still yourself, but you're in a whole different category. How did you continue through your career and stay present, stay in a healthy state of mind, stay where you are wanting to thrive and you're not having such low standards to just wanting to live well? Like you're chasing those bigger things, because though you're chasing those and you're building those things, it doesn't mean that bad stuff isn't happening,
Right.
but it's how you deal with them. And just getting to talk with you and what you've been able to do, there's been some part that you've really kind of nailed that down and understood that.
Yeah, it's such a great question. To your point, like bad things, do happen. And in your mind, in my super optimistic world, I'll start a business and I'll be perfectly rich, the next day. And that's just not how it is. But I did take in the lesson and understand that my dreams are on the other side of that treacherous, mountainous, thorny, scary road. And if I just stay really tied in on my vision of what I want life to be, and I started appreciating that journey, really, truly, um, I was going to make progress. I was going to do that and enjoy the elements and block out any of the negative. Truly have a strong filter of what I would allow in my life and what I wouldn't. Negative was not allowed if I had any control over it. Some things, like you said, to your point, things happen. And I believe with my faith, like, hey, some things are just there for a reason. We say, hey, God, I just want to be really wealthy because I want to help people and I really want to make an impact. Well, the path of that is not the smooth road, what we think it is.
Yeah.
It's that thorny road that challenges us so that we are there. We're resolute when we have to make difficult decisions, when we have to make big decisions and we have to lead and do all that. That's when it sticks with us. The academy was not a walk in the park, but it stuck with us. It changed us for the better. Same thing. This road is, I early on, I understood the challenges were a good thing. Probably from all the law enforcement training and the military training that I had gone through, that it wasn't a bad thing. It's just a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I could rise to it or I could feel sorry for myself. And it was not easy. Yes, there were days where worried about payroll, worried about I think we might be a little short. Worried about all kind of these stressors. Was I making the right decision? Am I worthy to lead people? All these things.
Yeah. Do you think that comes from, or maybe where does your courage come from to continue to take that step forward? Is it in line within your faith that you just know that when you keep going through those treacherous times that you know that something is going to be able to flourish from it?
That's great. Yeah, a huge part for my faith, and a huge part is like living that within other people and seeing like the magic spark just about to blossom. And I just really, really get invigorated by people that you could see and you help them a little bit. And they see the other side and they turn around, they help somebody else. So I really, really, try to drop seeds about that because I want that energy. I want to see other people help other people and believe. I am, like I said, I'm an optimist, to my core. I've seen some very, very ugly things, through law enforcement and in the military. But I know people are good. I know this is a good place. And despite what other people want to say, I am optimistic that we can determine where we want to go. And again, with faith and with a clear purpose and goal in mind. Yeah, absolutely. And enjoying and appreciate. Sometimes this is the other thing. We give no gratitude and grace and appreciation. Like I moved the needle. Well, it only went an inch. Yeah, but that's an inch closer.
Yeah.
And the next day it's a mile. And it's back to 2 inches. And then another mile. And then 4 inches. But it's okay.
Yeah. I love what you said about, giving yourself the grace and having gratitude. And something that I teach with my first responders is the 3 G's, which is grace and gratitude, because it's like, what are we holding on to? Like, what challenge are we going through that we know that we are holding on strongly to who we are in our core, but still getting through with it. And also giving, for the grace, like giving grace not only to ourselves, but giving grace to other people and allowing those differences of individuals to still sit at our table and to find commonality. And then, the gratitude is like, what are we grateful for?
Yeah.
Like even just a roof over my head. Like I am so grateful, like, being in Idaho where I don't know if this is fake spring, I don't know, but it's like 60 degrees. It's beautiful. Right. And I'm like, I got my first year's suntan yesterday. And I'm like, I am so grateful for that because I needed the sunshine. I needed to be outside. I need, and like just truly being grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I think, especially with social media, we have so many comparisons. We have so many people that, want to get success or marriage or finances overnight. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we're not going to. Like
Mm-hmm.
you said, one day you're going to have an inch, and guess what? There may be a day that you go 10 miles backwards because it's
Right.
like God's like, no, 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 you need to redo that. Like
Mm.
redo that 10 miles because you need to go down a different route.
Yeah.
And and allowing for those teachings to come to us and being open-minded and alert enough to watch out for them. Like I'm going through a lot of family difficulties right now. And I knew when it started, I was like, all right, this is a test from God. Like, this is my midterm, like in my first quarter, like, how am I going to act?
Right.
How am I going to respond to this? This is going to be all of the stuff I've been learning and reading books for and, understanding like what grade am I going to get? Because that's going to determine how well I'm actually using and integrating this stuff into my life. Because it doesn't mean anything when you have this knowledge just sitting there. We have to practice it. We have to do
Oh,
the work, which, like,
wow. That is like, that's it right there. Like, again, information is information. The way it is to business and everything else, it doesn't matter if we don't implement it. What good is it if we don't implement it? And part of, again, the teachings in the Bible, what good is it if we don't actually utilize it? If we don't step in it, it's nothing. Just a story, or we live in it. I love that. It's such great awareness. So again, I get it. I got to give you a lot of credit. I think it's beautiful what you're building, what you have established. You pour into so much value into other people. I hope you recognize that. I hope you're going to blow this up. I really do. I mean, a powerful voice that needs to be out there because so much is kind of, it's not, we have powerful voices in the negative and we need powerful voices in the positive and uplifting and thriving and pushing. And it's time for people to be honestly badasses again, to be determined. You know what? Let me be honest. Let me look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm 70% at best. And that's why I'm depressed. That's why I'm angry. That's why I'm frustrated because honestly, I've let myself down. Okay, cool. Got it. Now we got that off, and now we got that off your chest. Let's fix it. Let's go. Let's fix it. And that was the one thing. One of the things, for me was I used to lie to myself when I was little. The insecurity, whatever, I don't know. But it came to a point where a friend said, "You're okay with you, and I'm okay with you," and that was it. And I made it a point that I'm gonna be okay with me, and I'm a good person. I'll start with that. I'll lead with that. And if I make a mistake, if I upset someone, then I'll take ownership. That's my bad.
yeah. And I think, that is the accountability part. Like you're
Hmm.
willing to be accountable for your actions, for your words. And, I love you just pouring that into me of like, like you wanting me to blow this up because I'm wanting the same thing. And when other people can believe in you, those are the times where sometimes you don't have all of the energy, but that's where the other individuals
Yeah.
get to help you.
Yeah.
That's where they get to pour into you.
Hmm.
That's where they get to be able to, reestablish and re-spark that kindle that you have. And you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like shoot, guys, like I'm sorry I forgot about that's what my mission is, because we get life, life happens where we get busy or something happens or we doubt ourselves. And one thing, when you are doubting yourself, you also have to be the one that instills that worthiness in you. And I
Right.
say that because it is something, people will message me and they're like, Kinsey, you're killing it. Like you're killing it. I'm like, I feel like I am drowning. And I'll tell them, like, I will truly tell them what I'm going through because I think that's the important part for people to not just see social media and say, oh, you're killing it. And I'm like, I thank you. I'm growing for sure. But there's a lot of areas that I still have deficits in. And there is, relearning for ourselves, because there's been so many voices that have put doubt in our minds. There are
Mm.
so many voices from our childhood, whether it be ours, whether it be our families, whether it be, somebody else. And we do have to find that worthiness within ourselves, and literally telling yourself, like, MaKenzie, I am proud of you. Like, being able to voice that does something to my heart, where I'm like, wow, I am, like, it doesn't matter what everybody else, will say. It's like, you have to be
Yeah.
proud with yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be your biggest hype girl. You have to be your biggest supporter. You have to be your biggest advocate to saying, I'm going for my fucking dreams.
Yeah.
And it's scary, and it sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you are in a room of individuals and they ask you, like, what have you been up to? And you can list this whole long, list of all the things that you're working on. And then you ask, well, how are you doing? And they're like, same. I'm like, I am so glad I'm not you,
Right.
like, I'm so glad and I'm so proud of you, MaKenzie, that you're not the same.
Right.
Like, you're not the same. And
Right.
it sucks and it's hard.
Yeah.
And you are forging, and for the first responders, it's like, what it's like to forge your own path.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
And that, taking accountability and ownership of your own life and being able to forge your own path and say, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm having people come along with me, and, finding people like you, Monty, where it's like, hey, I don't have all the answers. I don't even have all the people, but guess what? I get to work with you.
Yeah.
And that opens up
Yeah.
so much
It should,
availability.
again, like that's for me, I get, and I'm not even BSing you. There's just a few things that I was talented, with, and I would always marvel at my friends that like could do like play instruments and academic. They were like geniuses and doing all these wonderful things. Um, the realization that I didn't have to feel like I had to figure everything out, when I realized that's not how it works, that I could just kind of bring some people together and work together for a common goal. That's how you really build a business. That's what it really was about. Man, that took so much pressure off. And then suddenly, like, that's all I have to do. All right, let's go do it. We can build big things. And now we have two companies that are going to go nationwide. Within the next 3 years, they'll have $100 million in revenue each. It's crazy. From a kid that, grew up in Newcastle County, Delaware, didn't, son of, school teachers. I didn't go to Harvard. I was a cop, and I learned a lot of this, made a lot of mistakes, but just didn't quit, and, determined to learn, determined to be around great people like you. That's what I like. I'm not a big partier, but I love being around first responders. I think they're the funniest. I think they're the most giving. Again, that's who we call. It's great to be around them. And so you asked me, it is such a joy, so invigorating to help people get their dreams. That's crazy to me. I'm helping a guy that probably in the next 4 years, he's going to have $1 billion company. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And he's constantly telling me, Monty, thank you. I'm like, thank you for, trusting me. And thank you for, help, working with us. And, it's just, and again, I say that it's not about all about it, because I've got folks that are, building, very, very simple businesses that they're happy because they have control. Same thing. Thank you, Mom. I mean, like that's what I want for people, is to have control and options. Just like what you were saying. So many times we have to make a decision. It's not our choice. But now we know we have a choice. This is your golden ticket. We have earned it. We have earned the golden ticket. If you've been a first responder for 6 months, you've earned it. If you've been a first responder in New York for 2 days, you've earned it. So, but,
Right.
Yeah, but truly, truth is, you being born, you've earned it. And a lot of us never really see that. God has always wanted us, greatness, because it does serve him. And I always say this to the first responders because there's always a little bit of guilt and a little bit of, oh, money. Again, you talked about it earlier. You hit on earlier, kind of money mindset. Money's bad. We don't talk about it. Da, da, da. And I say this, you and I know who we are. You know that if we had our last dollar and someone came up to ask it, we would gladly give it to them. So I say to the people that are always kind of weird about, money first responders, it's like, okay, but imagine your accounts are filled with millions of dollars. What good can you do? What would you change? What would you fix? We don't look to the government. I don't care. I really don't care. I'll make that decision. I'll fix that problem. I'll step up. Me and my friends that think like me will fix this problem. We'll handle this situation with joy and passion and abundance and love. No, don't cross us, because that's a whole nother thing too. Don't get it wrong. Just because I can talk flower, it make no mistake, but that is what it means to be, a servant leader, a wealthy servant. So
I want you to touch about, what your two businesses are. One with, the wealthy servant, and how you are able to help individuals.
yeah. Well, I wish it was just two. It's actually about
You've
five.
got a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So, so we have a laundry service is like I alluded to, is going to go nationwide. We have another service behind it that's kind of uses the data off of that, very similar to like Angie's List. Another one that's going to go nationwide. We have a equity fund that helps first responders, grow their business. We invest in some of their businesses. We have a marketing company also. And then we have the coaching, and we have the real estate and commercial holding company that allows us to hold brick and mortar businesses and all that. But the coaching business right now is a passion of mine. Again, I get to, after years and years of buying this and kind of learning and getting knocked down, I get to share some of my wins and some of my losses and our experience. We've assembled what I believe is the best team, because it's not really about the tactics. I could teach the tactics all day long. We believe it's here.
Mm-hmm.
We believe if we don't work on this and clear this out, the mind, if we don't fix the psychology, because we have imposter syndrome that pops up, money mindset, limiting beliefs, strategies that we run, if we don't address that, it's a good chance that we'll sabotage ourselves. So we address that first. We take an audit of where you're at, mentally. We demand vulnerability and honesty, because we do the same. And with that, once we help you clear that out, tactics are very easy. You're free. You suddenly drop all this off, and now we're focused on your true vision. We spend time on, what does MaKenzie really want? Not what she doesn't want. That wasn't the question. What does she really want? And then from there, MaKenzie, now we fill out this roadmap. We know exactly where to go. And we're like, oh, MaKenzie, we know how to do this, this, and this, and this. We can help this. We can source this. This is how we do this. I know someone in the network that's actually done that. Someone talked to me, three people in the last 3 days talked about they wanted to, build their service business and make it a franchise. Great. In our network, we have people that actually, that's what they do. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Monty, I appreciate your time, your knowledge, your wisdom to be able to not only talk to the first responders, but individuals that, money is one of those things that we don't want to talk about. And people that have listened, episode after episode know that I love talking about things that nobody wants to talk about.
Right.
And that's really kind of where my specialty comes in, and not knowing it all. I'm very well known that I don't know it all. And that's why I reach out to people like you,
awesome.
You reaching out to me. And where can people find you and be able to follow you, be able to see what your services are and how they could work with you?
Yeah. Thewealthyservant.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Wealthy Servant or Monty B on LinkedIn. My team is I got Telvin here. He's, they're not trying. They are blowing me up. They're making me look better than I am, guys. They got me all over the place, all over social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Telvin, where else are we at? YouTube. We're on YouTube. So see, I don't even. These guys are got me out there. But probably the easiest way is thewealthyservant.com, and we are
Awesome.
here to help and help people get to their true goals. So
Awesome. Well, Monty, I appreciate you so much for just being able to take the time out of your day and be here for our listeners and be able to, give some of your knowledge and wisdom, like I said. And listeners, all of Monty's information will be in the show notes. So if you are curious of how to get in contact with him, if you are wanting to look at more what he does or being able to be coached by him, reach out to him. That's what we are here for. We want to be able to help. We want you to be able to know that you need help as well. And it is not a weakness. It is a strength to be able to say that you need help. So Monty, once again, thank you so much. Listeners, I will see you for another episode next week. Love you guys. Bye.